baby beard.
All right, I'm a delivery boy.
Who is Hermes planning on killing?
I think we should let the orphans run free.
You've redeemed funds.
Yeah, exactly.
You haven't.
He's just an old guy.
Can we talk about evil Lincoln?
Oh, of course.
Oh, this art needs to be sent. That's not the voice at all.
That's lobster-tainment.
Let's make it the
Look,
Christmas.
let me ask you this.
He was just about to agree with you.
Opening music end sequence detected. Shut up and take my podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to that particular Futurama. I really languid and slow.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to Shut Up and Take My Podcast, a Futurama podcast that pits episode against episode in bloody, glorious gauntlet battle for your entertainment. So be grateful. I'm joined.
Oh my god. Get off your soapbox there.
I'm joined here by Mr. Phil,
I told you all about myself using awful euphemisms.
by Mr. Josh,
Bender has no respect for women. Learns a lesson? ?
by Mr. Ellen.
You're making us look like jerks in front of all the other genders.
That's a good one. And by just no titled Sean.
We are joining you, recording from the nation of Joe, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I was always more of a Devil's Island kind of guy.
Also, in case you've been living under a place that doesn't have Shut Up and Take My Podcast,
Switzerland.
you'll notice a return
Or
of
North
Ellen.
Korea.
You've been living under Switzerland.
Yeah. There's a lot of tunnels
Do they have
here.
tunnels?
I don't know if you all know.
Well, doesn't it mandate in Switzerland that everybody has to have access to a nuclear shelter?
I'm literally sleeping in one.
Really? Or
Okay.
why?
Well, okay, I'm not sleeping in the bunker part, but I'm sleeping on the same level that the bunker is in.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It makes me happy to know that you will survive a nuclear blast.
Can we have a Baby Beard vlog of you just in the nuclear bunker, just recording everything?
Yeah, but
Except it's radiation shielded, so it'll never get out.
Sure.
it'll be a really long, awkward vlog.
But you obviously haven't seen the Futurama yet.
It's like if you consider the film 48 hours a vlog, where he's trapped on the rock.
Or the popular TV series 24.
Oh yeah.
yeah, so we have to apologise in advance to Chris because he gets the joy of editing this. But yeah, so Ellen is currently in Europe.
I thought she was trapped in the box.
trapped in the
In
box
Europe.
in Europe.
Okay.
And
We had her shipped over.
But we've just cut an air hole and a speaking hole out.
Yeah.
Look, we're not there to afford shipping fees yet. Like,
Standard delivery really screwed us over in the end.
I thought originally that Ellen had requested to be on this episode because of its particular subject matter. But I was informed on the way up the stairs to our high-tech studio
Yes.
that it was the other way around. Sean requested Ellen's international presence.
I mean, I feel as though just 3 Australian white guys
Well,
talking
on-
two
about
Australians, one.
one English.
Yeah,
like,
just let's,
not the
let's,
relevant part.
let's balance it like a bit. Let's
Yes.
yeah, I'm here
Yes.
to add a good amount of estrogen to this talk.
Excellent. So now we're back at 50% estrogen.
So, can you, Sean? Why don't you tell us which episode it is and why that's relevant?
Oh, so we are doing season 4, episode 13, Bend Her. Now, there are 3 things that this is in reference to, so one of you each give one thing that...
Ben Hur. It's a reference to Ben Hur.
Bender, but deciding to change the pronoun to her.
Yeah, gender bender is my.
There you go.
Did we get all 3?
I think we got all 3.
You nailed it.
Hey!
Yeah.
Phil and I will high five across the table, and Ellen, raise your hand in the air just for
I
fun.
just punched
One,
the
two.
laptop. So.
I like that, like, you guys... It's like cheating because you just get in before the delay, so
Yes,
Ellen's
that's
forced
right.
to take the thing.
But it was also good because Ellen was immediately just like, I'll just punch the laptop. It's like, good choice.
Tell us about your deep research on this episode.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, the director for this episode is James Purden, back from A Taste of Freedom,
Directed by man.
Yep.
Huh.
oh,
Yeah.
Humanity.
which is this is his swan song. This is the final episode he graced us with. and he is now, as per Twitter, the supervising director for Fox Animation.
Ah,
Okay.
okay.
So I guess he just is brought in for any animation that requires a supervising director, I guess? Just
Supervising director, yeah. I wonder what that actually entails day to day.
Is he just a babysitter, just looking after everything now?
Isn't he the
Sounds
one who,
like an
flips all the
organisational role,
actors
doesn't it?
from the chair? Sorry for anyone who doesn't
Maybe.
know how acting works, but there's a lot of flagellation.
Yeah. It's very much that one scene from the Da Vinci Code.
I'm so glad I haven't seen that.
And ladies and gentlemen, out with the old, in with the new, we have the writer's debut, Michael Rao, who... all
We're
right,
going to have some
let's
words,
give you
Michael
two
Rao.
things.
Yeah, I think so.
You're going to have a row
Yeah.
with
Let's have a
Michael
row.
Rao.
Damn it, beat me to it.
Hey!
I think the overall plotting of this episode is definitely the weakest aspect.
Is it?
But we are not there yet.
Oh, I left a gap for Ellen. I thought she was talking.
Me too.
There's just going to be like some really lovely awkward pauses of like, no, you go first, no, you go first.
Yeah, except I can't see any of you guys, so it's like... you would
So it's just normal then.
Even if you could, it would be delayed.
Yeah. It's true.
So Michael Rao, his credits include every Comedy Central roast over the past 10 years or so. The Trump, the
Shocker.
I don't know what else there was. He was responsible for a spin-off of a spin-off. So Alf, that alien from the 80s that had a
Eats
sitcom.
cats.
Eight
Yeah.
scouts, yeah.
Yep. Then there was a spin-off Alf the Animated Series, and then there was a spin-off Alf Tales, which is the Alf Animated Series characters telling storybook tales about things. He was involved with that.
Okay.
Wow.
There you
Cool.
go.
Fun fact for
Illustrious
you at home.
resume.
Yes.
He went from being offensive with weird cat eaters to being weirdly offensive in this context.
Yeah.
Air date for this episode is July 20th, 2003, introducing Barbados Slim.
Barbados Slim.
The mahogany god himself.
I would like to drape something around his lean Caribbean shoulders.
What would you like to drape around them?
That's between us.
Yeah, it's just the three of us here, Ellen. You can tell us. It's not being recorded.
Mr. Phil, can you drop us some sweet, sweet plot knowledge?
Yeah, this is the story of how Bender changes his gender to win gold at the bending Olympics, and then falls in love and nearly marries Calculon, and learns nothing.
Yep.
Yes.
Importantly,
Learns nothing, question mark.
question
No,
mark.
he learned nothing. If anything, he
Yeah. True.
He possibly, yeah. I mean, they try and do a little sting at the end, but he's like,
Well, he has the power of emotion behind his regular horribleness now, so now he is unstoppable.
Yeah, but he was always emotional. This is the thing that pisses me off in this episode. He has always been
That's
a
a good
huge
point.
emotional baby.
As
Yeah,
long as
but-
it's about him. As long as it's about him.
that's right. But women are slaves to their emotions and their mood swings, you see.
So
men
if you
have
just-
emotions, but we keep them crushed
Yeah, so
in a
Ellen-
tiny
So
bottle.
lucky
Ellen, if
that
you
I'm
could just
not
keep yourself in check for this episode.
physically in the room.
Wow. If I get a message from Ellen halfway through, which is just like, just punch Sean, I'm going to have to do it.
Oh man, alright, hang on, my phone's by the ready.
I'm on my phone. If there's a messenger thing pops up, I'm like, I'm sorry, Sean, she told me I have to.
You're an individual, Josh.
I am, but also I like everybody here. I want
Think for
everyone to be
yourself.
happy. I want everyone to be happy, damn
Think for
it.
yourself.
Jeez.
Josh, not Josh. Ellen, the other Josh. What do we think?
Fucking rude.
Ellen,
Yeah,
first.
you lead us off. You lead us off.
I'm not just the female version of Josh.
I'm the male Ellen. We've been over this.
Wait, what'd you ask me?
What do
do
you
you
think?
Look, I'm not impressed. If anything, I'm a little pissed off. But when you're a woman, you can't get pissed off at jokes about your gender because then it only proves the joke, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Damned if you
It proves you're sensitive.
Yeah, it's lazy and it punches down, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's all the jokes in this episode are so generalized that it's like,
It's very
I
predictable as well,
don't
isn't it?
believe that a team that has worked on, things that have won awards and really delicate and fun episodes has been involved in this piece of shit.
Yeah. I think
Some strong words.
it's kind of giving the one character, the only character who would not learn anything from becoming the different gender. Like, Bender is a horrible creature by his nature.
However,
Yes.
I will say,
If Fry became a woman... Oh, sorry.
Bender's female voice, I'm into it. Not all the time. Like, most of the time it's just Bender, but there's a few bits where he kind of goes down, and I really like that.
Yeah.
What was great about that is when they first were recording the episode, initially for the entirety of the first act, John DiMaggio put on this really, really feminine voice. But then they realized that's way too hard to sustain for the entire episode. So they just, for most of it, it's just him being like, "What do you mean I can't? What do you mean I can't have the medals?" It's just Bender being Bender. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
so
Really,
much
like,
easier.
With it,
You're
just a
Jewish?
little lilt.
Yeah, a little bit. Can I get one thing out of the way before we talk about the actual episode?
Yeah.
Why is Earth competing against Earth in the Olympics? Why isn't Earth competing against the other planets in the Olympics? And then we can move away from that, and then we can talk about why this episode is a bit...
It's a good point. You'd think the Olympics at this stage would be interplanetary.
Yes.
Yeah.
They probably have an interplanetary Olympics as well.
Yeah,
I
maybe
guess.
this is now like the equivalent of like the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
a bit
two,
like
No one
2
knows.
years have passed since...
Yeah.
2 years have passed since the Star Trek episode, because that was 3002 and it's now 3004.
Oh,
So
there
it's
you
been
go.
2 years since that episode. Now we can talk about the
I
actual
mean,
episode.
I also have a problem with the Olympics, though. How can you have robots competing in a sport like that they are literally built to do? Because then wouldn't you just build a stronger robot?
Why are they doing press-ups? They don't have muscles.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, that's like one of the interesting arguments about people saying that there should be a sports division league of the people who dope and drug, so that out of all of the people who cheat, who is the best cheater?
Who's got the best cocktail of drugs?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like down for that. So it's like I don't mind the robot thing. It basically becomes Robot Wars.
I was
going to
say, this is just
the
Robot
Olympics.
Wars.
Yeah.
It's about the best engineer, which basically just means
Mum.
Mum is competing against herself.
Mum
Which is
wins.
in every
Free
category.
advertisement, which is great. Yeah.
I would see an Olympics
But-
about people trying to do the most drugs, though.
Oh yeah.
So I think
So
would be
much death.
if I could skirt around the lazy gender stereotyping for now,
Skirt around
I
it.
do want to get into it.
Like,
yeah,
skirt.
skirt.
Speaking of lazy gender stereotypes,
If I can ignore it like a man ignores his problems.
Pant around it.
My favourite things about this, the good things about this episode I like are the Olympic stuff at the beginning and the soap opera stuff at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
The stuff that isn't really directly to do with the gender stereotype.
also Calculon. Calculon's pretty
Calculon's always pretty
I
entertaining.
agree.
He's
I've
great.
got Humorbot. Late Night with Humorbot 5.0. That beginning sequence with himself and Calculon. Love it.
Yes, there are good jokes and good moments.
The fact that the crowd all clap and stop at the exact same
Yes.
time is too
Yeah.
perfect.
They
a joke.
definitely do.
They're great robot applause.
They do like a
Yeah.
Simpsons opening in this episode where we have the Hermes plot with the limboing, and then it just never. It gets completely abandoned. We don't see Hermes again for the whole episode, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, does he just is he just in hospital dealing with
Yeah, he just gets humiliated, and that's it for him, isn't it?
It was like he got his 3 minutes on screen and then he's out.
Maybe he
Yeah,
couldn't
he
get
got
out of
his
the
paycheck.
spandex. It happens.
I think it's something more advanced than spandex.
it's
Farnsworth made a good invention.
Well,
Yeah,
No, we have
until
that.
it didn't, because it didn't
We
work.
have that invention though. So you know the year that Ian Thorpe blitzed through the Olympics.
Yeah.
That was the year that Nike, all the swimmers were wearing this kind of one piece long.
The shark suit, I believe they called it.
Exactly, and that's now banned from the Olympics because everyone was breaking records, and
Yeah, I wonder
the
why.
suit works too well that they're like, oh no, we got to bring this down.
And that's when you introduce the division in the Olympics of who made the best sports gear that allows them to go even faster. And we've got a new
Sharks
competition.
in the Olympics.
Oh, can we have sharks in the Olympics?
just incentive.
Yeah. Every sport, even shot put, you're having to throw a shark instead of a shot put.
So here's a few things to mention about the episode. Number one is that the writer, Michael Rao, is not a sci-fi fan.
Interesting.
So he found this particularly difficult to write. 'Cause
Maybe hire someone else.
yeah, not a
I
guy
should.
who's hired to do comedy roasts.
Yeah. He basically he went down for the idea for this episode. He went for men and women are different.
Isn't it funny?
Right, lads?
No.
Yeah. I think the thing...
Women be stuffing.
This episode made me think of Ace Ventura the whole way through. Good at the time it came out, and then it aged so
I understand
poorly.
Yeah, that ending especially is wildly problematic.
I mean,
from the time Ace...
I remember watching this, though, at the time that it came out. It's 2003. What would I be? Look, I was young.
12. Are we the same age?
I think I would have been, 8 or something. And I still remember being wildly furious and, pissed off. But because back then I was, a tomboy and trying to be one of the boys, I was like, ha ha ha, this is funny, right? It doesn't make me hate myself.
There's one thing that I remembered from this episode and I still like is just Bender singing the national anthem for Robonia.
Yeah.
A land he didn't make up.
That's the redeeming thing for that.
I also really like Farnsworth's pronunciation. He said, instead of Robonia, he's like, the proud people of Robonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
Just buys into it straight up.
It's nice, or his senility kicks in. And he does genuinely warn Bender, and then Old Man Crazy steps back in and is like, well, never mind, let's go on.
I think the more risky it is, the more appealing it is. That's the joke. He's like, it's terribly dangerous and risky. Let's get started.
I also like how beautiful...
Repeat that
I said he also really loves causing bodily harm, and not gonna lie,
Yes.
Bender just being beaten into a different shape.
Yeah, he does a remarkably good job, though.
That was a nice joke about, the new delicate form, only because he was using a sledgehammer. I'm like, okay, that's the delicate, change. I'm like, that's not delicate at all. Love it.
On the note of Farnsworth, I love how beautifully kind of sensitive he was in rejecting what he thought was an advance from Bender.
I think we should just stay friends.
I think we should
Just be friends.
That's perfect. But, so I've got this written down, and I wrote this down, quite early in the episode. Bender is a misogynist, and through disguise is just forwarding himself and only his view of women being as floozies.
Yeah.
And he even projects that onto Calculon later on when he says, Calculon will just move on, and I'm just a cheap floozy, and he'll find someone else.
Fine.
Yeah.
I think there's something really interesting, though, in the way that, look, obviously the writers did not intend for this, but
No.
Bender, when he goes and tries to convince women to be more trashy and sexual, he becomes the object at the same time. I shouldn't say he, because he is technically a woman, even though we know he's only doing it for his own fucked up reasons. But,
Yeah.
so Bender is taking off their clothes and shaking their assets, and Bender is the object of attention. It's Bender's own choice at that point.
Yes.
And it's kind of how, some trans women feel at their most confident when they are flaunting their sexuality and dressing in very provocative clothing. It's absolutely not what they're trying to do, because these writers are trash.
No.
Yeah, there's a little bit of are they going to a place of find your power and embrace your sexuality,
Make a comment on it,
and actually kind of live it and be like, oh, okay, there's actually, it's not all just lazy jokes.
Yeah.
There's actually a bit of a nod towards empowerment and Bender finding out that being desired and desirable can be a positive thing if you own it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that would be the case.
Yes,
you look
but they just don't go there.
Yeah,
They just,
I feel
they
if Futurama was still around today, and if they were to make this style of episode in 2018, maybe they would have headed towards that.
Yes.
In a more competent writer
Possibly.
as well. But
Yeah.
Instead, they go on about mood swings and being a slave to your emotions.
There is a good line about my breasts are keeping me awake at night anyway, and same.
Do they talk to you or something? They just won't shut up, or
That's for me to know, baby. That's for me to know.
So there's two things we need to learn now. What will be draped around Barbados Slim, and whether Ellen's boobs talk. Discuss.
obnoxious.
Two things you'll never ever find out.
Curses. This episode made me think of BoJack Horseman. There's a moment where a character comes out as asexual. and it's given weight, it's given like the right amount of respect, and this character, you find out they're asexual, and it's like, yeah, they're asexual, and it's not a big deal, and this is how they're living with it. I'm like, that's amazing. That's what this episode should be if it was done nowadays. But this is done 2003.
I would
15
like to-
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, what I would like to see is maybe Bender really kind of find a confident place and like really enjoy being a woman to the point where he's like, I'm really conflicted about whether or not to transition
Which
back.
they
right?
try to do in the most lazy way possible.
Yeah, it's too
but
lazy. Yeah,
It's also like the big thing about this episode is everyone's like, oh, so now you're gonna date Calculon. It's a weird thing of gender also being construed with sexuality, like,
yes.
and it's fucked up. And look, the reason that we have a lot of good programs now addressing different issues is because those people are finally in writers' rooms. And even if it was today and Futurama still had the same writers, I still don't think they'd like nail anything in terms of
No.
gender politics or sexuality or any kind of like hot button issues.
Yeah, it feels like a writer's room that doesn't really have a nuanced grasp on the subject matter that they engage with in this episode.
And you know
They-
what? I think this episode could have been handled even in a way to humiliate Bender. That would have been a good arc for this episode, because the whole thing, when Bender says men are so much better at being women, he's only saying that in order to be attractive to men. So
Yeah. Attracted to
Yes.
it
himself.
would be
He's looking-
good if
he's-
he has to experience then having the unwanted attention.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other side of it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
He's like, I know how to be a desirable woman,
Yeah.
But you know-
What are the
upside of that-
consequences
what are the
of that?
consequences
Yeah.
of being desirable, right? Yeah.
But that is a fantastic point. I didn't even think of it that way. Is the fact that there is absolutely no consequence to anything that Bender does throughout the entire thing.
No.
He only goes from strength to strength.
Which is not what it's like being a woman, I'm gonna tell you.
I feel like this episode came out in the writer's room. They made the old joke of, because there's an old joke years and years ago about like guys would always say like, oh, if I was a woman, I would just stand in front of a naked in front of a mirror and watch myself. And it's like, so that's what this episode is. This episode is that joke for 30 minutes.
So what actually happened was when Michael Rao was pitching ideas to the writers' room, he pitched to both David X. Cohen and Ken Keeler, and he had all these different ideas, and apparently they just weren't being interested and they didn't like any of them.
Yeah.
He then pitched one sentence, which is, "What if Bender got a sex change?" And that sold them completely. So it just came from the one sentence. What if Bender got a sex change?
It's
and then
not
they greenlit
necessarily.
it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily the premise that's the problem.
the delivery.
But if you're going to take on a premise like that and you go, oh, that sounds funny, you then have to actually sit down and think about it
Yeah.
and be like,
Yeah.
what's a good way of approaching this? A similar way to how they approach like vegetarianism and ecological protection in, say, the Penguin episode or the Poplus episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they take kind of both sides of the coin and no one's really in the right and it's not really a lazy kind of shitting on a certain thing. This just feels like it's one-dimensional approach.
Yeah.
And they go, that's going to be
And
funny.
if it had been more observational, and that's the thing, it needs to be specific to be funny. I was having this conversation the other day because I was talking about Nanette, which is a great fucking comedy special. Everyone should watch it. And
That's the Hannah Gadsby
yeah,
one.
Yes.
and she
Fantastic.
she deconstructs all these jokes and she goes so much further. And then someone showed me a clip of Jim Jeffries stand-up, and there's like the comparison of two jokes, because Hannah Gadsby talks about how she has a joke where she basically says that lesbians kind of don't have a sense of humor, but then she deconstructs it by saying, and then you have to laugh at me because otherwise it proves my point. Also, she is a lesbian saying that, so it doesn't come off as punching down. It's very observational, and it's something that she's had to live through. Jim Jeffries says, and lesbians, they have no fucking sense of humor. That was kind of it.
Yeah.
That was the punchline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's laugh at
The punchline
other
was
people.
Yeah. It's I think that again, making Bender have the sex change in this episode is possibly the worst character to choose because he is a horrible creature and he continues to be a horrible creature. Like, Fry, Leela, even Amy having a sex change would be a much more interesting exploration. Or even, like, a body switch. Have, like, Bender and Leela switch bodies.
Leading to that sci-fi.
Yeah, but you could do it with Bender because he is a horrible character, and you could, like, show that there is no one way to be any gender. And anyway, the robot genders are ill-defined.
Yeah, that was really pointed out.
Look at the Transformers, like...
They're just pieces of metal moving around.
Yeah,
one's pink,
but the
so
girl
she's
one
the
is pink.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, RC,
Yeah.
yeah, she's
Oh,
pink.
yeah, in the movie, she's just there for 3 seconds and then dies.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot to do.
Welcome to action movies.
Yeah.
There
Welcome
are-
to Michael Bay action movies, more
I kind of
particularly.
want to switch it on to the because there's that whole aspect of the episode as well that deals with soap operas and
Yeah.
melodrama and kind of really sending up. Like for me, the wedding scene.
Yeah, that works. For me, that works. That
Oh,
works.
yes.
That's
Speaking of the wedding
Ton of
scene,
fun.
Leela's disguise as the diamond, whatever, procurer, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I wrote that down too. Her design is awesome. It's very
I
Lynchy.
fucking love her
She looks
outfit.
like Laura Dern.
Yes, and it's beaten her sexy girl wrestling leotard for me in terms of Leela's, my favourite Leela.
Oh, nice.
Best outfit.
Yeah.
It's
Also,
a really good outfit.
I
yeah.
like how much they do not give Calculon any sort of credit because they gather before they go to their places.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
in
thing.
plain view of
Yes.
the wedding and Calculon, they're like, he's not going to fucking
He's
know.
such an idiot. I like his line when he's like, funny fact, the script actually called for me to say yes. But I gave it a little twist.
When
Finds
repartee noticed, come back
out
not found.
context, and it's so brilliant. Like, it's just him
Yeah,
screaming
that
no, and
scene.
it's like everyone's so into it.
See, now I want to know, why was a pirate flipping patties on a barbecue?
You don't- I think it's self-explanatory.
I mean,
Sean.
year 3000, man, everything's
I would
acceptable.
love
And like, even speaking of Leela's amazing costume and disguise, Fry's terrible disguise of just putting a pith helmet and a
Hunting
vest
jacket, yeah.
over his normal clothes.
Yeah.
was great.
Bender we know that he does feel pain because he says, ow. He was totally willing to be harpooned in the chest
Yeah.
for this elaborate
Yeah, but he
scheme.
also
He was
gets
totally
his
on board
cut
for
off. I'm assuming there's no robot anesthesia.
Yeah,
No, I guess
good question. Well, Farnsworth wouldn't give anesthesia to any patient, no matter who they are.
that. Well, he cut it off in Our Roommate. In
Yeah,
the
he did
third
too.
episode, he just willy-nilly cut off his head. And
Also, his Bender's function of the week, apart from the fact that he can transition between the genders, is the fact that his
Expensive.
yeah, well, I mean that's standard Bender. His antenna comes back the moment that the testosterone goes back into his system.
it popped up,
Yeah,
didn't
his
it?
antenna
Yeah.
like pops up.
Boing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay.
He can just regrow parts, apparently.
Yeah.
Despite them being snipped off.
I like how Amy and Leela are genuinely disgusted throughout the entirety of this episode.
They found something to bond again. Like,
Yeah.
But that's their function, is to be outraged.
Yeah,
Which is, I think,
which
a bit general and lazy.
Like I said,
it's good that they are.
they're there to prove
Sorry.
the joke. Like,
Yeah.
any punchline or quotations bit that they're given in this episode is all like, yeah, see, women aren't doing it right, or like, you know, the whole trashy thing, and they respond,
Yeah.
maybe we aren't dressing trashy enough, or, you know,
Oh, that line.
Maybe
I
he's
hate.
right about the
Yeah,
lipstick.
that
Yeah.
line was bad. That line was like the one that I was about to say. I'm like,
yeah.
ugh.
I do like Leela punching Farnsworth.
Yeah.
I
It's
agree,
the bare
Professor.
it's like the bare minimum they have to do to be like, we don't actually agree with this character. Like they feel like they're kind of covering their ass rather than making a good
Yeah, and
comment
also
or taking a stance.
when Leela says, I'm disgusted, like, it really did not rub me the right way when they're talking about Bender dating Calculon, because it gave me this kind of gross exoticism of like it's this, when people kind of exoticize trans people and then they're so interested in like, oh, what do your genitals look like, or does that mean you date like the other sex now, and it just made me. The words creepy, wrong, and sick were used when talked about Bender changing gender. Like, if that's any indication of the comedy that's coming out of this episode, like, it's fucked up.
I mean, what is sick is his motivation for doing so, but there's not a line clearly enough drawn between those two. Between the response to that and the response to the change.
That's how I thought that line was played at first, because I gave it the benefit of the doubt. But then it's creepy, wrong, and sick, but I will watch out of curiosity. And the curiosity is the punchline, and it's saying, oh, I'm curious about how this weird abomination of nature works. And it's like, fuck you guys.
Yeah. You know what's interesting is that you made a point, Phil, I think, where you're saying that, I can't remember who said it, but they're saying that Bender never gets any comeuppance.
I think it was Ellen and myself.
Yeah, so, we make the point that at least, this episode is saying that, Bender doesn't get anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't learn anything. He doesn't get told it's wrong, really. So he never learns, and the audience is allowed to look at Bender and say, oh, that's fine, it's a joke. Whereas you take Amazon Women in the Mood, and there is a bit of men versus women, and, it's not a great episode, but the point is that you have two things that kind of are looking in the other way, which is, one, every time Zap Brannigan and Fry says something that's, men are great, women are awful, they get their comeuppance instantaneously. They're destroyed by the women, basketball fundamentals. But the other thing is that you've got characters like Kif that are standing up to them and saying, no, that's actually bullshit.
Yeah.
So
it's a question that I have as well here. It's lost. Damn it! I lost my question.
So I have a thing. What if instead of falling for Calculon, Bender has his transition, and then she is still attracted to Floozies herself, and then she has to deal with a robo homosexuality instead, right? And you take it in a different direction, and you leave off. Maybe you leave off the Calculon. As wonderful as Calculon is, you take the episode in a different direction, and you do separate gender and sexuality.
Yeah.
Or you don't do a romance thing at all. But I think it would be kind of interesting for him, for them to say, what if Bender is still the same personality, but has a gender difference instead.
This isn't the last time that Bender does something kind of offensive regarding genders.
For me to fix the episode, I would say, really, I can buy Bender wanting to be attractive to men because he thinks that's all that women are for. So then that needs to be a cautionary tale. That needs to be like, hey, see how shit this is. Instead, Bender becomes this trophy girlfriend and is talking about how women exploit men's attention for gifts. And it's like...
But she's a celebrity in her own right? She's a 5 gold medal winning athlete.
She's an athlete.
Yeah.
There's an episode, and I was thinking of it while watching this as well. I was like, did Futurama really rectify this? In the
second run.
The second run, there is an episode where Bender and Amy start dating, and it is frowned upon that there is a robot-human relationship. And then Bender and Amy are petitioning so that it can basically be accepted. And by the end of the episode, guess what Bender doesn't learn? Anything. Anything.
Right.
Yeah.
It gets put through, he breaks Amy's heart, and then he's back with Floozies, and that's it. And that's what I was going to say. Is it because Bender is the most loved character from Futurama, the most recognized character, the character that stands out the most, that they're like, we can't have Bender learn anything. We can't have Bender change. We need him to stay the offensive character that he always is.
It's almost its own trope. Don't they lampshade it at the end of this, where they say, we kind of hoped that you would have learned something. And it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but it's only
it's part of his character that he can't learn.
Hang a lampshade on that exact same joke. Like... without it starting to grate. And if you are going to use that joke, maybe don't have big issues concerning Bender. Use a different character and have Bender as the snarky person who snarks in the corner.
Absolutely.
Agree.
yeah.
I would have much preferred to see an episode where Fry had a gender change for some reason, or Leela had a gender change for some reason.
Either through some weird sci-fi thing or some futuristic technology.
Like,
that you can-
there's a few examples of how this is done better. Not in animation, maybe, but I'm thinking of, like, Mrs. Doubtfire never punches down. The joke is never that Robin Williams is in drag. The joke is how he needs to negotiate himself as a woman, presenting as a woman. That's the joke. And the joke is...
Yeah, I mean, his motivations being creepy is like a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And his deception
I do think...
is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just go, ha, drag's
he's a woman.
hilarious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's also, like, that great line from... Well, it's not in Tootsie, but it's Dustin Hoffman, piece of shit that he is, talking about how he was crying on the set of Tootsie because he was being talked about as a woman, and then he also said, but I was an ugly woman. Like, and that's something he's never had to negotiate in the world as a man, being valued on your appearance.
Two things. Firstly, do we hate Dustin Hoffman now?
Yeah, he's done some.
Damn it. Okay.
Questionable.
Okay.
Should
gonna have
this
to
be a
research that
new
when I get home.
podcast? Do we hate this person
Yes.
Who do we hate?
Do we hate this person? Question
But
mark?
the second thing, it stood out to me as well. There's a movie, I forget what movie it is, but Gene Wilder does blackface in it. And it's like he's undercover, and it's I believe a black police officer.
It's Willy Wonka.
There's a African American actor who is playing alongside him and basically helps disguise him and then like integrate him. And it's a scene that just you watch it and you're like, this is wrong on so many levels. And that's what this episode kind of left with me, like a little bit in my stomach. I'm like, this is not great.
We're older and wiser now.
Yeah.
I feel like
Kind of interesting because when it came out, David X. Cohen he was quoted as saying he was a bit worried about how the episode would be received.
Yeah.
Well-founded worry.
Yeah.
Well-founded concern.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to get worse the longer it goes.
Yeah.
Like, at that time, it probably came out to a lot of people being like, this is fine, and a lot of people being like, I
Early
can't
noughties.
speak... Yeah,
Early
I think
noughties.
it's
and a lot of
also
people
the
being
way
like,
that
I can't speak up about this.
Futurama is marketed. Like, the demographic, because it appeals to this kind of, like, nerdy sensibility, even though it's probably split down the middle, genders enjoying it, but if you're not...
You sort of generalising about nerdy males now, that you know what I mean? Like, we're nerdy males
I'm
and
talking
we're...
about nerd culture.
Yeah.
Nerd
Yeah, the
culture
toxic
is
thing that it
always...
can be.
It always pretends like it's only marketed at men. And if you're anything else that happens to enjoy it, even if it's 50-50, you still feel othered because of the way that it's presented.
Yeah, there's been no changing of the guard. It was made originally for what they thought were men, and then people who came up with that being like, it's still for men only. It's like,
It's that 18 to 30 male demographic that they're always trying to hit.
Yeah.
Who are not known for being particularly nuanced on gender issues.
Yeah, well...
No, yeah, unfortunately.
Like-
Nuanced on issues.
Yes.
I feel like
Yeah,
Fry
full
is
stop,
the
yeah.
audience surrogate a little bit in this episode. Like, I expect more from him, but it is kind of in his character that he's kind of, like, weirded out and slightly offensive.
Very
and-
confused.
He does actually have my favourite line of the episode,
Was it the...
which is where he's very upset that he's losing.
I was thinking
He's
the same
losing
thing.
Bender to marriage, and then Bender announces that it's all a scam. He goes, "Oh, okay,
What's
for
the
dinner?"
Yeah, how quick he is just be like, yeah, that seems about right. Okay, move on.
Yes,
it's that realization that he has, and I think that's kind of a little bit even like moment on that. It's just the fact that he realizes, oh, it's still Bender.
Yeah.
Bender
Yeah.
is still Bender.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. And although I do love Leela's line, I think Leela's line in this episode sums it up quite perfectly. If you promise to get out of my gender.
Yeah.
yeah, you're spoiling it. Go away.
Yeah,
I think it's how most people feel about, well, like, I feel like trans and biological women feel that way about Caitlyn Jenner.
Just, can she get out of my humanity,
Like-
please? Yeah.
Wait, Do we not like Caitlyn Jenner anymore either? I'm going to have to research this one too.
Also, just to double check,
No, we didn't. Never.
Caitlyn Jenner, wasn't she originally a sporting athlete as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. They
Yeah.
There
clearly,
you go. It's an allegory or something.
Before the moment actually happened.
yeah, Futurama, just, kicking down
very-
doors and smashing boundaries.
Punching down, kicking down doors, just destroy everything.
Just splintered the door.
Stealing diamonds from the natives.
So, speaking of transitioning, we should transition over to the voting portion of this episode. And we have, what is this episode called again?
Bend
Her.
Bend Her up
Bend her,
against...
gender bender, bend her.
There you go. Up against the recently toppled King. Jurassic Park is no longer the winner, and The Sting is going to be coming up against Bend Her.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
We lied.
We lied to you.
Really?
Well, I took the joke. I took the joke way past.
Yeah.
Didn't want to lie to you, Ellen. I'm
Yeah.
so
Phil
sorry.
and I looked at each other, and he was like, "What are we doing?" And I'm like, well, Sean didn't want Ellen to know, so we can't say anything.
I felt very bad.
I wanted to tell her.
Me totally on board with this from the
Because-
moment
no,
it happened.
I made a pained noise.
Audience, the joke. Yeah, you can actually pick up that pain noise. The joke was, we're going to have Ellen on, and Ellen's not going to know until we get to this point, and we want to get her reaction. But the fact that you asked Ellen, it's like, well, the joke's already ruined.
No, that's fine, but you made it sound like from the whole beginning you wanted to tell her. No, you were on board
I
with
did.
this
The
joke.
moment I was like, I should tell her.
There we go.
Boys,
There,
can
from
we
the
stop arguing, please? Because I'm going to say that actually I'm a little glad.
Oh! Plot twist.
In my personal favorites, like Jurassic Park is definitely. Fuck. I love Jurassic Park.
It's great.
Jurassic Park
Yeah.
is pretty high up there, but higher is The Sting.
Okay,
Well,
excellent.
it would have been even more unanimous,
Yeah.
which is not possible. But yeah, we 3-0'd the Sting.
Yeah.
It was just so fun.
And a rare occasion, I went first.
But you know what?
Yes.
To apologize to me, you have to buy me a bouquet of puppies.
Sugar nut.
We've sent it in the mail. It should be on its way in a box to Europe right now.
But because dogs don't exist, it will never get there.
It's a Schrodinger's box of puppies.
Dog.
Yeah,
a
do not open.
Pavlov's
Yeah.
Schrodinger's box
Puppies.
of not puppies.
I just made you a checkout for cash. That was all I sent you.
Fantastic for 10 cents. Of
Josh,
cash.
you know
But just
me.
cash.
Oh yeah, that's a calculons check for cash.
That was the best gift ever.
So let's just formalize it.
The Sting.
Sting.
Yep.
Sting.
The Sting is a classic and extremely fun, creative, and heartfelt episode.
Really heartfelt.
And this is a half an hour of lazy bullshit with a few good gags.
Yeah. That one was about madness and loss and love, and this is about Bender loving himself and the madness and the fact that he doesn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm going to vote for
It's a
Bender.
no-brainer.
No, I'm kidding.
No, it's official. She did it.
She did. Her vote is recorded.
It's in the.
Yeah.
It's kind of great. It has zero emotional resonancy, a smattering of jokes, and there's not really a sci-fi plot to it at all.
Yeah.
It fails at all 3 counts.
This is a Family Guy episode disguised as a Futurama.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, this episode can go in the toilet.
Excellent. Right next to the Bungalow.
And
Yeah, with the racist bug.
Yeah.
So it's basically anything hot button. They're real hit.
Wait, so is this the episode of season 4 that goes on par with Bungalow and the Deep South
And Fear of a Bot Planet.
Fear of a Bot Planet. So we found one for this season so
Yeah,
far.
we
It's
have,
sad though
Fuck
because
this episode.
this is the only episode that Zoidberg has a slight win.
Several, in
Like
fact.
he gets to
what?
order the wedding cake, and then at the end in the wedding, he's eating the cake. So that's a win.
Oh.
He dreams about that guy.
Also-
And also in the middle of that, he just gets fed scraps of
I was
the
about to say,
game from the
is
other
this,
crew.
Is this a new Zoidberg game? It's just like throw food at him.
I love that that's just
Yeah,
in
it's
there.
great. And it's just
brilliant.
It's almost like that's just a Thursday afternoon for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Everyone looks really happy. They're really enjoying it.
And this is a question for us three. Do we hate this more than we hate the Fanorama?
I haven't watched.
It's a
Panorama.
different beast.
I said us three.
Yeah, but I can't see where you're motioning.
It's a very different
Why
beast.
can't you just feel it? Just
I'm
it's
giving
ba-
out the force.
It's bad for very different
Yes,
reasons.
agreed.
I
mean,
don't
look-
see a value in comparing them.
Cool.
gun to my head, I'd rather watch this
Fanorama?
because I got at least laughter out of the soap opera stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hedonism Bot was back, so I was happy for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
To just say,
Oh, my!
Yeah.
So whose voice are we going to do?
oh, look, we could go for...
do
What's that?
Barbados.
Oh,
yeah,
Barbados Slim!
Introducing Barbados Slim.
Should we do Barbados
All right,
Slim?
we should do Barbados Slim.
It's
We've done
just a deep Jamaican accent. Is that bad? Is
Ha
that
ha ha ha. That's mine. I'm not saying it.
bad? I will go home with that gold medal draped across my
Lean Caribbean
strong
shoulders.
Caribbean shoulders.
Oh, he has that great burn, which is like, I see you're still limboing under the fashion sense or whatever. He delivered it better than I did, but it's a good
I
burn.
can't remember.
Also, La
What
Barbara.
does he call her?
The bar of good fashion.
Chubby, I don't know. Look, he calls him Chubby, and that's
Yeah.
makes me sad. But
I do like that the commentator is so very quick to change his allegiances. Like, burn in hell, Barbados Slim!
And my hero, Barbados Slim.
Barbados Slim.
Also,
is
Sweden
just
got
What's the deal with Sweden?
Yeah, Sweden got shit on in this episode.
Oh.
Sweden! Ha! Just rips the sign.
Go back, and yes, this means going back and watching part of the episode, and look at the horror on Fry and Leela's face.
They are
as
not
Farnsworth
happy
was
with that.
ripping the sign. Horrified.
We are
Well,
one
they need
Earth,
to
we
pay
said
for
we're
IKEA, so
Oh, true.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to email us for any reason, up to and including your thoughts on this episode, do so at babybeardmedia@gmail.com.
Sean, can you tell us what episode you can expect next week? As well?
That always comes before, doesn't it?
Yeah,
All right.
usually,
Well, you know what? Just come back and we'll do something like, I don't know,
Absolutely.
Obsoletely Fabulous. I think that sounds like a good
That sounds
chronological way to go.
We just picked that out of a hat. So you can also find us on social media and disagree with us there on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And all our podcasts are on Spreaker.
And if you two thought this episode didn't age well and they needs to lift its game a little bit, why don't you give us 5 stars on some sort of iTunes-based desktop program and join in the fight to bring Bender some sort of sense of emotion, growth, learning, and becoming a better robot.
to all our audience, like, please let me know. Is my lipstick not globbed on enough? I need to attract more men.
I can hear that it's not.
Yeah.
Alice.
Is it too floozy to go on a date naked?
No,
Question.
No,
I just answered
it's
it for
fine.
you.
No.
As the
Get back
as the
in your
woman
box,
on this
Ellen.
podcast, I am now the knowledge of all things feminine.
It's
Good. That's why we quite.
It is weird when you say you are like the knowledge because you are a computer at this
You
point.
are the
so-
knowledge.
I am
Yeah,
the
you're a
knowledge.
soundboard.
My Ellen AI has reached maximum potential. Soon it will be Skynet.
I like this idea that on Skype we contacted the wrong Ellen Graham and she's just
that'd be great.
gone on board with
Oh,
this.
it's like a
She just
malicious
has a lot of
AI
opinions
that's, like,
about Futurama.
learning from me
Oh,
having
no.
recorded
Wait,
stuff
wait.
into the computer, and now it's like taken on a life of its own. Someone write this episode.
Wait, there is a test. There is a test. Ellen, are you a robot?
I don't know what you mean.
She is! Burn it all down!
Abort the podcast.
Unplug everything! Unplug everything!
How scary! Like the second we would say Bend Her just gets all the information on Bend Her.
Why would you unplug me?
Oh no, she's in the phones. She's in the walls! Although it would be great if it was a bad AI and it just took the plot of Ben Hur.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, until that time, that is 7 days from now, I have been Sean.
I've been Phil.
I've been Josh.
I am Ellen Bot.
L.I.
Right.
I was really hoping she would end with please insert girder.
No, don't insert the girder. I don't like it like that. With that,
Okay.
Oof.
Okay.
Bye.
That's the third thing we'll never know about Ellen.
Yeah. Girders? Yay or nay?
Oh, I was just going to say, what does... Let's not go there. No. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Chris, cut all this. Cut all this.
Sexy Chris is sick with the flu. This is why this episode took a while to come out. He's very sick and very sorry. There's no other outtakes. I sound like robot. Cool. Bite my shiny metal ass.